The Siders family went through Ohio's healthcare system for 17 years, 18 births, multiple hospitals, multiple counties, and investigators still haven't found a single confirmed report that stopped what was happening inside that home. That's where I want to start today, not with the house, not with the conditions investigators described on June 30th, with what happened before any of that, with what the healthcare system saw, or should have seen, across 17 years and 18 deliveries, and what apparently it did nothing about. This is the story the WSYX investigative team in Columbus broke. They reviewed 15 birth certificates and 2 death certificates connected to Elizabeth Siders and Gary Siders Jr. What those records show is a timeline that runs from 2008 to 2025. From a 15-year-old girl's first delivery at a hospital in Gallia County, Ohio, to a 4th set of twins born just 1 year before investigators finally arrived at 182 Omer Road with a warrant on June 30th, 2026. Before anything else, all 4 adults charged in this case have pleaded not guilty. No convictions, grand jury still pending. Everything here is based on verified reporting from WSYX, ABC6 Columbus, and confirmed court and birth records reviewed by their investigative team. When a name is attached to a quote, that person said it publicly and on record. Now, the first delivery, Elizabeth Siders was 15 years old when she gave birth at Holzer Health System in Gallia County. Her first. Gary Siders Jr., listed as the father, was 18. The marriage that made him the listed father had been obtained in West Virginia, where state law at the time permitted marriage at any age with parental consent. In Ohio, the age of consent is 16, which means the pregnancy that produced that first delivery involved a relationship that Ohio law treats as criminal, regardless of claimed consent. Below 16, consent is not a legal defense for the adult involved, and Ohio law requires healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, midwives, hospital employees with patient contact, to report to law enforcement or protective services if they have reason to believe someone in their care is in a situation involving neglect, dependency, or the kinds of circumstances Ohio law was designed to address. Not suggested, not encouraged. Required, mandatory. The word in the statute is mandatory. Ron O'Brien is a former Franklin County prosecutor in Ohio. He was consulted specifically by the WSYX investigative team for their reporting on this case. He analyzed the circumstances of that first delivery and said this on record. A mandated reporter at that point should have been questioning the circumstances and reporting their concerns to law enforcement. Should have, not did. Should have. That first delivery was 2008. The warrant was served in 2026, 18 years between those 2 dates. And in between, 17 more years of a family moving across Ohio, having more births, interacting with more medical systems, generating more records in more counties, with no confirmed intervention that reached what was happening. The same midwife who attended that first delivery went on to deliver 5 more births for this family. 2 of those additional deliveries also occurred while Elizabeth was legally below the age of majority in Ohio. Same professional, same legal obligation in the room. No confirmed report that produced an intervention. WSYX confirmed this from the birth records they reviewed. Now let me walk through what those records show across the full timeline, because the picture builds in a specific way. The births continued through years and across facilities. The family moved. A pattern Ohio AG Andy Wilson confirmed investigators have documented, saying the family had lived in various Ohio counties since at least 2008 and also spent time in Wisconsin. But they kept using Ohio hospital systems for deliveries, kept showing up in medical records, kept generating documentation in one county after another. In 2022, Elizabeth gave birth at Riverside Methodist Hospital in Columbus. The records describe conjoined twins, joined face-to-face at the chest and upper abdomen. Extremely premature. They lived for 1 hour. Respiratory failure. 2 death certificates were filed. A delivery of conjoined twins at a major hospital system in Columbus requires a substantial medical team, specialists, multiple clinical personnel with full attention on the situation. And the mother in that delivery room had a documented history going back to a 15-year-old first delivery in Gallia County. A history that should have been part of her medical record. A history that any attending clinician could in theory have seen, whether anyone looked, whether anyone in that room saw the cumulative picture and made the call Ohio law requires. That's something no hospital has confirmed. In 2024, another set of twins was born at Ohio Health O'Bleness Hospital in Athens County. In 2025, a fourth set, same facility, same county. 4 sets of twins in 3 years. The first set didn't survive. The remaining 3 sets were among those removed from the home on June 30th, 2026. When WSYX's investigative team asked Ohio Health directly whether healthcare professionals had contacted Protective Services in connection with those Athens County deliveries, the hospital responded by email. They cited federal privacy law. They cannot share patient health information without consent. They will not confirm or deny what happened. Athens County Protective Services also cited confidentiality when asked whether they had received or acted on any tips. And Vinton County Prosecutor William Archer asked directly and on camera whether mandatory reporting had occurred in connection with these births, said, "I can't address that, sorry." 3 different entities, 3 versions of the same non-answer. I want to be precise about what that actually tells us. It doesn't confirm that no report was ever made. Privacy law prevents hospitals from saying what they did. Protective Services won't disclose their case records. A prosecutor with an active investigation won't comment on evidence. What it tells us is this: if reports were made at any point across 17 years and 18 hospital deliveries, they produced no documented intervention that changed what was happening inside this family. That's still a failure. Regardless of exactly how it happened, the school system's record runs parallel to the healthcare system's record. 6 of those removed from the home were of school enrollment age. 6. An attendance or truancy process was opened because none of them had appeared for an entire school year. That process was closed because authorities couldn't locate the family. A family living in Hamden, Ohio, a town of approximately 700 people, with documented utility accounts in Christina Sider's name. In Vinton County, where the Ohio Attorney General says the family had been living for approximately 4 years, the process opened, hit a wall, closed, 6 people, entire school year, 0 days attended, system designed to catch exactly that, caught nothing. Now let me spend a moment on something that doesn't get discussed enough in coverage of this case. The mandatory reporting question, when applied to Elizabeth Sider specifically, has a layer to it that complicates the picture in an important way. Elizabeth is one of the 4 people charged. She has pleaded not guilty. The legal situation surrounding her, what her attorney Tommy Stolley is investigating about whether her circumstances as a 15-year-old bride warrant individual examination, what former prosecutor Tommy Pope called almost the worst of circumstances, is genuinely complicated. But here's what the mandatory reporting question adds. At that first delivery in 2008, Elizabeth was potentially the person the mandatory reporting law was designed to protect. The 15-year-old in that hospital bed was not just the mother. She was potentially the subject of the concern a required report was supposed to raise. A call to law enforcement about the circumstances of that pregnancy would have been, in part, about her. She was 15. The law said someone in that room should have made a call about what was happening to her. The call apparently wasn't made, or if it was, nothing reached her in a way that changed the next 17 years. And now she faces serious charges alongside 3 others for what happened in those 17 years. I'm not saying that resolves her legal situation. Her attorney isn't arguing that the system's failure excuses anything. What he's investigating is whether her specific circumstances, how she entered that family structure at 15, the 8th grade education, the dependents that followed, are legally distinct from the other defendants. But when you trace it back to where it starts, 2008, Gallia County, a 15-year-old girl giving birth in an Ohio hospital, a law in the books that said what should happen, and you follow that thread forward 17 years to June 30th, 2026, the mandatory reporting failure isn't just about what happened to the others in that house. It's part of what happened to Elizabeth too. Let me talk about where the investigation stands right now, because I want to make sure the systemic failure story doesn't crowd out the fact that there's a criminal case still actively developing. All 4 defendants are in custody. All 4 have pleaded not guilty. Gary Sider Sr. is dealing with a pending competency evaluation following a medical emergency while in custody. Christina Sider's attorney filed a non-dissemination motion seeking to restrict public information about her case. Gary Sider Jr.'s gag order remains in place. Elizabeth's attorney is pursuing the individual circumstances question. The grand jury hasn't returned indictments. Special prosecutor Annika Collins of Highland County is building the case. The sealed warrant records remain the subject of a separate legal action by the Columbus Dispatch. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation is involved. Multiple agencies, multiple threads, all still in motion. And somewhere in what investigators have gathered, in the forensic work, in the behavioral assessments of those removed from the home, in the full picture of 18 years of family history across multiple Ohio counties, there may be material about the mandatory reporting question that becomes relevant to the prosecution's approach, not necessarily as criminal charges against any specific hospital employee. Mandatory reporting failures are legally complex, and prosecution for them is rare even when the failure is clear. But as context, as part of understanding how this family moved through Ohio's systems for 17 years without those systems producing an effective intervention, that context matters for this case, and it matters for what comes after. Because the systems that miss this, the healthcare workers, the school attendance processes, the county agencies, are the same systems that will encounter the next situation like this one. Whatever comes from the criminal case against the 4 defendants won't change what happened. But understanding how it happened, specifically mechanically through what failures, is the only thing that gives those systems a chance to do differently next time. 18 births. Ohio law says mandatory, multiple hospitals across multiple counties. A former county prosecutor who analyzed the records and said the same thing should have reported. And 17 years where that report apparently either wasn't made or didn't produce what it was supposed to produce. The end of those 17 years was a 12 by 12 room in Hamden, Ohio. The conditions the Attorney General said he couldn't get off himself hours later. The comparison to livestock made by the Vinton County Sheriff. That's where those 18 hospital visits ultimately arrived. 4 defendants in custody, grand jury coming, investigation continuing, and one more question that the WSYX investigation raised that hasn't been answered publicly. What did the healthcare system actually do? Subscribe to Unsolved Archive for every verified development in this case. We'll be here for the grand jury, for the sealed records, for every documented update as this moves forward. Hit the notification bell, because this story doesn't start on June 30th, 2026. It starts in 2008, in a hospital in Gallia County, with a 15-year-old girl giving birth, and a law that said someone in that room was required to make a call. 0 confirmed calls, 17 years, 18 births. That's the failure this video's about.